Hi, Spill and Chill podcast here. My name's Maisa. I'm going to be your host today. Actually, today we have a really interesting guest. He studies also in my university. Please introduce yourself.
Hi guys, my name is Serge. I'm a sophomore at the Moscow State Linguistic University. I study in the Portuguese department, just as Anya and just as the previous guest, Lisa, right?
Yeah.
So much originality in the choice of guests, right, Anya?
Well, I'm working with what I have.
We.
We are working with what we have
Yeah.
because he's actually in our production team. We're really grateful to have him here today. Also, our production team is here behind the scene, working their butts off to bring the podcast to you as soon as possible.
Yeah, but it's also worth noting that we are hoping to bring some sort of diversity with our next
Yes.
episode, so stay tuned for that.
Yep. Yeah, sure. We have a lot to talk about today because we finally had a chance to discuss the themes, the topics beforehand, and we have a lot of opinions on a lot of topics. So I would just ask you to tell us a bit more about yourself, your interests, what you're planning to do with your degree in the future, and so on, please.
Okay, so I'm getting a degree in translation and interpretation. My first language is Portuguese, and my second one is English.
Yep.
My linguistic journey started with English, so I started learning it when I was 4. My parents splashed out on a private school, so the education was relatively good, and I was doing good at that. I soon after I started, I found myself in a group with people that were 3 or 4 years older than me. So I believe ever since childhood, I knew that my career and my life would be tied to languages in some way, and now I'm strongly working on that path.
So we've started basically at the same age learning English. I mean, like you started at 4, I started at 3. We're actually are getting our certification in English
In January.
in January. Yes, we're planning to get C2, but we're
Yeah.
not promising anything.
Yeah, and we're gonna get absolutely destroyed in the comments for
yeah,
that.
yeah. Because the level of our English today is going to be A0.
Yeah.
Don't judge us.
Yeah.
I think there are 12 subscribers who's gonna write
Yes.
the comments.
But just in case, we are going to ask all the grammar Nazis to refrain from commenting.
Yes.
Okay?
Also, today we're drinking. I think it's Greenfield Christmas Mystery, because Happy New Year! The snow has fallen. We are in the Christmas and New Year's mood. So let's go to our topics. Language learning, the first thing that we wanted to talk about. You've been learning English since you were 4. I was learning English since I was 3. And we also started learning Portuguese both in our university. For how long have you been learning Portuguese?
That would be about a year and a half from now. I have 2.5 years left,
Yep.
and 2 more if I want to pursue a master's.
Yeah, I've been learning it for 4.5, almost 5 years now. A great language. I have been learning Swedish for 6 years already. I'm gonna be saying this every damn episode because I love Swedish language. So, is it hard to you for you to? Was it hard for you to learn a new language after this much? This big chunk of experience in English.
I think it was quite easy at first. I am very glad to have worked with the professors that taught me during my first year, and they that are still teaching me Portuguese. They made this entrance into a language very easy for me, which is, I think, the first hardship that you encounter when you start learning a language is actually starting to do it. Just
Yes,
like
yes.
taking up any hobby or any action at all that requires effort.
Yeah.
But I was guided through this process of obtaining at least an like A0 basic knowledge quite well.
Yeah.
And the first plateau that I encountered was during my second semester, which is the moment when you flat out at A1 and you actually need to push through to start digging into more complex topics, learn the
Yeah.
vocabulary for that.
Mm.
It was a bit hard for me, but as for now, I'm trying to push through.
That's
I-
good. That's good. The persistence also, like you need to start something and then be persistent and consistent in learning something or doing something. Because, like, for me, it was hard. First couple years, for the first year, I wouldn't just learn anything because I didn't. Everyone knows I didn't want to study Portuguese in general. But then it was hard to be consistent with like doing homework or like opening grammar books and just reading on grammar. That's why like I have problems now with grammar in Portuguese. Well, I wouldn't say problems. I mean,
you wouldn't say problem.
shut the hell up. I mean, the some of the people in the background, they know that I have pretty good Portuguese. They know Portuguese better than I do. I'm sorry. um, sure. Yeah. Let's switch it up a bit. Our future degrees are translation and interpreting. Do you think you would do translation or interpreting as a job?
It's very hard to say when you're a sophomore student because in our university, translation and interpretation classes, they start from junior year, like practice classes, not the theoretical basis. And all I can rely on when I'm thinking about it is people around me that are already practicing translators and interpreters. And everybody seems to enjoy that, with, of course, like various degrees of that. Some people
Yeah.
get burned out quite quickly, others are trying to hang on to any job opportunity that they get.
Yeah.
Uh,
Me
yeah,
here.
yeah. We'll see. We'll see. For now, I'm more focused on becoming a teacher.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. A bit masochist, I would agree.
Masochist, a bit
But
masochistic, yes, but it's not my place to judge.
Sorry, aren't we all a bit?
yeah,
Masochists
Yeah,
or
most
teachers?
we're linguists, of course we are.
depends.
Yeah, we're all a bit crazy here. I mean, no sane person would conscientiously apply for Moscow State Linguistic
No,
University.
no person would like actually think that applying for a linguistics degree in the year of our Lord 2024 would be a good idea.
I mean, I applied in 2020.
Because this changes thing up a lot.
We've had more opportunities in 2020 than we have. We have a lot of opportunities now. Not to just like
Yes, we're not being doomers here.
yeah, because
obviously.
I mean, if we're taking Portugal, yeah, we don't have any job opportunities in Portugal unless we change, like unless we move to Portugal. But we have Brazil, we have African Portuguese speaking countries. We have a lot of opportunities, job opportunities in Angola, in Mozambique, in Cape Verde for some reason. We're not judging any country. Like, we can, as translators and interpreters, as people with linguistics degree, we can work anywhere with our level of English, with the level of education that we get. We surely can work in any field.
Absolutely.
First of all,
Absolutely.
like any from standing in McDonald's,
Yeah.
yelling at people, "Sir, this is Wendy's," to actually being journalists or like interpreters or any kind of people. We're very versatile, we're very agile, we have we have soft skills, like
Yeah.
that's
Yes. Also, if we're talking about Portugal as
Yeah.
the only, I mean, I guess it's the most logical opportunity, right? You study Portuguese, you go to Portugal.
Yeah.
But an argument could be made that Russia, which is the country we live in, we study, etc., never actually had good relations with Portugal
Yeah.
in terms of trade and etc. Like,
We always were more friendly with Brazil,
yes,
actually.
African countries, especially
African
during the
countries,
times
for
of Soviet
sure.
Union.
Yes. Yeah. It's no doubt that.
Yeah. I mean, like, we had wine, we still have wine. and
Yeah,
that's pretty much
nothing
it.
changed.
The wine is good. The wine is good,
The wine is good.
but that's pretty much it.
That's pretty much it. That's the bane of our relations with Portugal.
Yeah.
The main thing we get is wine. So you've mentioned. I'm just running through the topics. That's bad. You've mentioned being a teacher, a professor. First of all, what do you think about it? How did it come to this point where you thought first of being a teacher, a professor?
I guess. Well, my mom is a professor, right? At our university, she has a PhD in Russian philology,
Oh,
and so this topic was it was appearing during the entirety of my life. When I was growing up, I thought I would never want to be a teacher because my mom um, was double shifting a lot.
yeah.
They had a
Oh my
huge
God.
deficit in professors. Um, she was always tired, always on the job. When she came back, she sometimes wouldn't even like have time to interact with me because she had to work.
Yeah.
And I had a great childhood. My mom really tried to give me a good childhood, but unfortunately, sometimes it appeared to me as a little Serge as a child that her job was in the way. So that's why I thought I would never become a professor. Then I went to middle school, and I went to a gymnasium, which is quite good. When I was finishing it, it was regarded as one of the best in Russia. And I had a history teacher by the name of Ilya Mikhailovich Litkins, who was very, very good at explaining things in his own way. He, as I said, he was a history teacher, and instead of trying to explain it as a pile of facts and dates and names, he would try to make us build logical chains out of
Oh,
that.
that's so good.
Yes, and that had a huge impact on how I perceive the world currently,
Yeah.
trying to
See it as
perceive
a
and
logic-
justify it, yes, logically.
Yeah, as a logical chain of events. I mean, our history. I studied at a simple school, like nothing special, and no one has put that much effort in teaching us. But so, did he change your mind about being a teacher?
I think yes. I think this was the moment where I
It wasn't me. I thought it was me. Okay, yeah.
Okay.
Continue.
All right. I think it was like the moment when I realized that the bad pay and all of that stuff was just the surface, just what you see, and the actual thing that's interesting about teaching is the new stuff that you bring to your students' lives. So at that time, I thought I wanted to do history, just like him.
Yeah.
And as time progressed, I understood that that wasn't really a field for me.
Mm.
So the second change was when COVID hit.
Oh,
And
I think everyone remembers that.
yes, Yes. So when COVID hit, I was sharing a room with my mom at the time, and she had Zoom classes. So I would sit there nearly every day and listen to how she teaches her subjects. So that was stylistics of the Russian language, and that was rhetorics and analytics. So those ones were way more complex than school subject, obviously. If statistics is like a basic subject that everybody gets in our university, where if they're going for bachelor's degree, rhetorics and analytics are only for specialized interpreters that are going for masters, right?
Oh,
So
yeah, okay.
if you want to be a simultaneous interpreter, you get an obligatory rhetorics class. They teach you how to speak and yada yada.
Yeah.
And I really enjoyed the way how she was teaching, and that made me think about focusing on languages in particular. Because, well, even though she teaches Russian is my
Yeah.
native tongue. Russian is still a language,
Yes.
even if you teach it at that kind of level.
Yeah.
So at that moment, I thought that I started contemplating going to MSLU.
Yeah.
And when I
Because she's
went
working
here,
there.
yes, and when I enrolled, I started working with professors that it appeared as if they actually had some sort of a gift.
Mm.
Very good at making concept rules, etc., making concept things simple and easy to understand.
Yeah.
And I started wondering whether I have that sort of talent, skill, but I came to a conclusion that even if I don't, I will always have time, and I will always be able to train this skill.
It's not a talent, it's a skill.
Mostly a skill. And
Because
effort.
yeah, you need to put your soul to it. Because a lot of people, they're just working just on enthusiasm alone. Um, we know that because we're doing the same thing.
Yes.
I mean, most of the translators of our age, like of my age, were we don't get paid a lot, and
We
that's
sometimes don't get paid.
we sometimes don't get. We mostly
More
don't
often
get
than
paid
not, we don't
in
get paid.
general. Yeah, at all. But for teachers and professors, it's harder to work for that amount of pay because you're giving the information that you've known for a long time and you're trying to explain it to people who have never heard of such things, and you don't get paid for it that much, like that much in general. I mean, but that's what drives our professors to work basically till they're dead. And that's what I wanted to talk to you about. What do you think about the age of our professors and teachers? Because I have bumped into such thing as a professor that was 84 years old. She was teaching people Swedish, but it's hard. It's hard to work with people that are already basically senile. So, what are your thoughts on that?
I think it really does depend on the person.
Yeah.
There is a radical solution to this problem: the cutoff age for a professor.
Yeah.
For professors. So if you reach a certain point when you're like 70 or 75 or 80, you are forced to retire.
That would be good, honestly.
This sounds like a good proposal, but it really does depend on the field, because there are fields like especially heavily theoreticized. We could say like physics, algebra, etc., where people that have worked in science for the entirety of their life have a greater chance of becoming academics, and whose names would be engraved in the history of the respective science. When you are just teaching languages,
Stylistics.
stylistics, or say languages to freshmen and to sophomores, that's a
Yeah.
completely different story. You need to be appealing to them in a way. You need to be you need to have the same vibe.
Yeah, but there is also a problem now that has surged in our university of young professors, young teachers, because they are inexperienced, they have never taught in their lives, and I feel like for them the better practice would be to try and work at school first with young children that are more impressive, that are easier in a way to work with, because it's really hard to work with young children. They are very active. Some of them have ADHD or other problems. There are a lot of hardships in working with children, but it would be a better practice before turning to people that are older to work as a teacher somewhere else than in linguistic university. Because, for example, what can I personally teach others? I am just graduating from my degree and I really want to work as a professor, but at least I had a chance to try my hand at it when I taught your class, for example. One time, it was one time, but I've prepared 15 pages of material. I could answer questions. It's not that hard to look it up, honestly.
Obviously.
Like, I mean, we have a professor that does look up a lot of stuff on her during her classes. She's also from our department. I think you know who I'm talking about.
Yeah,
I'm not gonna drop any names.
obviously.
It's not that hard. You can be a good teacher. You just need to be prepared for it properly. Because, like, one of the people in our production team, she is studying to be a teacher, and they have the theoretical subject to know how to teach. And, like, when they graduate, they have a higher chance of becoming better professors than us, for example, because we work mostly with languages and translating them, but there should be some limit to it.
I guess so. We have professors that that got a master's in teaching and a bachelor's in interpretation and
That's good.
translation. But overall, I think when it comes to young profs, it really, really does depend on their attitude towards their work
Sure.
and on what they can bring to students. Because um, in particular, if we're talking about English, my experience with English in this university was that up until my sophomore year, I never had a single class with a professor that would be older than 30.
I did,
And
but
just a bit. Let me finish my point. And now I have one. The rest of them are still very young. The majority of them were very good, and I was impressed. I was genuinely impressed with a person being what 5 6 years older than me, and they're able to teach this and bring up this and that and explain all the topics that seem to interest me and have an answer to my questions that ends up to be right. But at the same time, you have people that come here for the money, and yeah, this is like a double ambidextrous point, right? You can't really get a lot of money from working as a teacher, but you still can be there for the money. And people like this come there not giving a flying fuck about what kind of material they're pumping out, and they like think that they're like on the top of the world because they're a professor at a young age. Not dropping names, right? But this is a bit rage-inducing, to be honest. So I guess in this topic, it all comes up to what people are the respective departments admitting to work.
Actually,
Actually, we're not supposed to swear. I'm sorry.
I haven't bleeped a thing out of the last ones.
Good, so I can swear.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Not that much, please.
Okay.
I mean, we have to comply by YouTube's guidelines. So I wanted to bring up the thing with the young teachers that I've had on my first and second year. A lot of English profs that were younger than 30. There is a guy lurking behind us that has spent the night at my apartment, and he's just walking around looking at us like that.
Bro is like looking around like a rat, like food when?
Bro is looking deviously.
Yeah, we have like eight people at the crib, and like
Yeah.
6 of them are here for the takeout, and 2 of them are me and Anya.
Excuse me, I'm not here for the takeout. I'm here to bring you, I'm sorry, cameras.
Okay.
Wow! You're doing
The Lord's
The
work.
Lord's work. Yeah. So, on the topic of professors, I've had in my first 2 years a lot of young profs that really wanted to teach English. They were not there for the money, and only one of them was good, and she moved to Portugal. She was from our department. I think everyone knows her. She attended our last concert.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I forgot the surname actually.
Okay.
That's good. Nastya knows her surname. And the other is still working at our department, but with Portuguese now. And we still know who I'm talking about.
Yeah.
But she's good. She's good at Portuguese. The other 2 were really, really bad. One of them didn't give a crap about what she taught us. She was just there to give us the information in a monotone voice and then give us a task and then go the hell out of the classroom. But we still have these types of profs at an older age because we have the legendary UN translator who teaches 15 minutes of the lesson and then goes on a smoking break for the most of the lesson. And I think people know who I'm talking about.
Yeah, but honestly, this action is respected. Right?
Yes,
and
really.
very relatable.
Very
we are
relatable.
absolutely not going to do that.
We're
when we
not
become
going to
professors,
but
let's take a smoke.
and we're going on a break. No, we're not going on a break. We have 3 more topics, and actually, okay. I think, as you may have noticed, we talk a bit differently from each other. And I'm not claiming British English, but I do have a bit of an accent. Do I? I hope I do. Honestly, I hope I do. Although I would love to learn Australian English. Hello, mate. No, I'm bad at it. And my colleague has an American accent, America, which is a point of contention, I think, when we talk to each other. And we do talk a lot in English because, well, first of all, for the practice reasons, and second, because sometimes it's easier to convey your emotions in English. So, as I've already mentioned, we do talk a lot in English. And we do have a difference in accent, which becomes a point of contention. I'm repeating myself, yada, yada, yada. Why American English?
I guess it's just because I was. So I mentioned that I went to private courses, right, to a private school when I started studying English. I left them when I was 12 because of.
So you don't follow through?
Bear with me.
Okay.
Bear with me.
Okay.
After that, I didn't have any like academical practice of English until I was 16. What I was doing in that time was I was watching a lot of YouTube. Primarily, it was like
Yeah.
sci-pop, all of that stuff, a bit
Yeah,
of
yeah, yeah.
movies, and nearly all of the content that is being put out in English is either like a mix of those two variants or in American English, primarily in American English. Let alone the fact that I enjoy American sports.
Oh.
It's a bit weird, but I follow baseball, I follow football on a weekly basis. I
Oh.
guess even more than like soccer. I'm sorry for that word, but yeah,
Soccer.
soccer. Um, and I think that's how it became my main variant. I was just following the topics that weren't really discussed in British English,
Mm.
so I had to stick to American. And the when you learn an accent, the best way of learning it and the easiest way is to making yourself sound like the native speakers. So that's what I
Yes.
did.
Yeah. Well, I I was speaking with an American accent for the best part of my life. I mean, that's what I was learning, that's what I was taught for the best part of my life. That's the content I consumed on a daily basis, and I continue to consume it in American English mostly. But when I entered the university, a lot of professors were judging me for
Oh.
the American accent, and a lot of them tried to teach us British English, and I was so reluctant to learning it. I hated it. I hated the absolute guts of it. Because why would you sound like that, mate? Why would you sound like that, love? And now I sound like that. I have no idea how that ever happened. I think at some point I started talking to a guy from my year that got expelled. Uh, he had the most perfect Queen's English. Oh my god! Half of the half of a year, half of the girls from a year were just drooling over him for his English and for his looks, and that was he was one of my like closest friends at the time, and we've never, and I repeat, never spoken Russian. Never. When we went to walk around, we would talk in English. In our university, we would talk in English. Only if the lessons forced us to speak Russian, we would speak Russian, for sure. But mostly,
So,
yeah.
in conclusion, people learn American English for practical reasons, and people learn British English for fuckboys.
No, he wasn't a fuck boy. He wasn't.
That's an aesthetic reason.
Okay.
He wasn't a fuckboy, and I didn't learn British English for him. He was expelled when I started learning British English. Was he expelled? Because he converted me. No,
Okay.
but for me, I don't think it sounds better, but sometimes some words in British English just sound like so
Hit
smooth.
different.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. For example, bottle of water.
I hate this joke.
What? You hate the joke?
It's over 40.
Yeah.
Everybody talks about the war.
But it's funny.
Yes. Maybe it's a bottle of water.
Bottle of water. No.
Bottle of water. You missed the glottal stop.
What were we talking about?
Language variations.
Yeah, bottle of water.
Bottle of water.
Yeah. Okay. I think you've explained yourself.
Yeah.
But in your opinion, is there a perfect version of a language, of English language in particular? Because there are a lot. I think English has like 12 accents, 12 different variations. Because India, they have a lot of different English accents. Um, Do you think there is a perfect variant out
I
there?
don't think so. I think well, obviously, English is not the only language that has multiple variants. Portuguese has
Two.
two, for example, right? An argument could be made that there are three, but we think it's two.
Yeah.
And I think Brazil has the best approach to this, because Brazil is very rich in dialects and dialectal variations of its
For
language.
every state, they
Yes,
have a different
yes.
dialect.
Well, at least for every macro region, at least
Well, it's
five.
states.
Yeah, mostly like this. And they don't have a variation that they recognize as
The official one.
the official one, the
But
best one.
they do joke between themselves and like joke around about the amount of variations. 26 states and one federal region. So 26 different dialects in Brazil.
Yeah.
And not one of them is recognized as the official one. I think the most popular one is what we call carioca, is from Rio, and the second one is Paulista from São Paulo.
Yeah, and I think English, especially if we're talking about America, needs to have the same position on this. I mean, why would even a country without an official language have an official language variation? The whole point of
what are you talking about?
The U.S. doesn't have
An official
officially
language?
recognized state language. Yes, states do recognize English as their official language, but the U.S. doesn't.
The hell? What? Wait a second! I didn't know that.
It's true. It's
How?
true. It's because
Why?
of the melting pot. Because, well, the U.S. were people coming from Germany,
Yeah.
from Ireland, from
yeah. Immigrants, basically.
Immigrants, and they, the people that the Puritans that came on the Mayflower were essentially British people that immigrated from the Netherlands. So,
Oh yeah.
So it made sense for them to not recognize a language as a state one.
Yeah, because like the land of the free
and the home of the brave, exactly.
Yes.
But
okay, the perfect variant. We were talking about America.
So
how a state that doesn't have an official language should recognize an official variant of language.
Okay. Yeah. And they're greatly different. If we're talking about the so-called perfect variant of American English, which would be GenAm, or General American English, it also incorporates many variations that are present in certain regions. RP doesn't, for example, right? RP is very strict. RP, received pronunciation, the ideal British English. It has a very strict set of phonetic difficulties that were mostly present in like posh Londoners' speech.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
I don't have posh English. Do I? Is it posh or? I hope it's not Cockney though.
Okay.
I mean.
Okay.
Okay, bro.
Yeah. But even though GA is doing a good job at including all those difficulties, it still sort of undermines the value of the variants of English that are present in the US. So I think for the sake of linguistic equality, we shouldn't even think that a perfect variant of a particular language is possible.
Okay, but if there's not a perfect variant, do you think there should be a right one? Seeing as Britain was the first country to have English, and the right variant would be the British English, and American would be the wrong one.
Objection, argumentative.
Wow! Objection, hearsay.
Oh man.
I mean, there should be the basic bitch variant of English, which is British, isn't it? Or do you think American English was more popularized by the media, and we are now talking in a broken English.
Maybe. I think when America started gaining influence in the world in the 20th century, they tried to mix them, right?
Yeah.
They tried the intercontinental English, transatlantic, right?
Transatlantic, yes,
It
yes.
was had
Yeah.
another name, but whatever. Transatlantic English. That's which was a like purely invented variant of English, mixing both British and American. Didn't work out. It was heavily present in like the movies, etc. But after it died out, mostly the media started revolving around the American variant,
Yeah.
which I think could be a good argument if you don't know English and you want to try learning it from a particular standpoint, be it British or American. I think it's a good argument to start with American and see what you like best later.
That's yeah, but isn't it hard to, for example, it's always easier. Let's take Portuguese as a beaten down example because we've been using it. It's worn out, but it's easier to switch from continental Portuguese to Brazilian Portuguese because Brazilian Portuguese is easier. The grammar there is, as some people from Portugal say, is broken, but like it's a grammar still. They have their own rules, but it's pretty much easier than Portuguese. And it's also easier to switch from Portuguese to Spanish, but it's hard to go back to
Yes.
continental,
Yes.
and you can never know both language variants as good like as one another. Isn't it harder to switch back to, for example, British English? I still haven't learned the proper British phonetics. I still have a lot of American words. I do write a lot of words with Z, for example,
Mm.
because organization
Yeah,
or
yeah.
all this stuff where you put Z and then your Google Docs says, "Oh, you're using American English. Should we switch it?" Like, no, I'm sorry. That's the way I write. Isn't it harder?
I think it's easier than switching from Brazilian to continental Portuguese because of the grammar. The
Yes. Oh my
grammar
God.
difficult. The grammar.
Differs.
Yeah.
In
The grammar.
American and British, yeah, let's be honest, the grammar doesn't differ.
Yes.
In American and British English. There are some
There is like
exceptions.
one main one.
Yeah.
Right. For those wondering, it's the difference between the difference between the usage of present perfect in British English and past simple in American English for describing a finite action. Because for whatever reason, which could be a topic for a PhD, by the way,
Yeah.
right? For whatever reason, Americans perceive way more actions as finite, as complete. So that's why they use past simple more. The Brits,
Yes.
on the other way, I guess they're sort of trying to make more connections with the current time.
Yeah. I've noticed that when you open a grammar book with like exercises, you have a lot more exercises for perfect tenses than past, and then you talk to Americans and none of them use perfect tenses, and you're like, why am I learning them at all? But yeah, I think for me it's kind of hard to switch back to British English, but I do really want to. But I have no idea if it even suits me, because I feel like there are things that like a language suits a person when you speak. Like you can see the person speaking the language on a daily basis. For example, like you can recognize a Russian person in a crowd and you know that this guy speaks Russian, for example. And then like you listen back to yourself speaking different languages and you're like, no, I cannot do that anymore because it doesn't suit me. I have no idea if British English suits me at all because I don't seem like a person that would be into that kind of kinky stuff. But then again, American English is much, much simpler to me, it seems. So, I don't know.
Maybe, but it has its own difficulties, especially if you're really keen on knowing all the ins and outs of it, especially when it comes to phonetics. It gets ridiculous. Like the frontalization of vowels depend on monophthongs in particular, depending on the letter that comes after them. So, for example, you have the monophthong a, as in like an.
Do you mean that one?
Yes, the one that we call lягушка.
Yeah, the
Um,
it's called frog in a lot of languages also.
Okay,
The frog
okay.
sound.
So it would sound different in perfect general American English if if you put it like in words like drag and dragon, the letter a
Yeah,
is more frontal.
yeah,
Dragon, drag.
yeah, sure. I haven't had phonetics as a subject ever in my life. The only phonetics I've learned were YouTube videos, films, and other unspecified content online. Stop laughing. It's not that funny.
Okay.
As if you've
Who
never.
am I to judge? Who am I to judge?
Yes.
Go on.
Yeah, but I think we have like 10 more minutes. And the last thing I wanted to talk to you about is Conlangs, which is, if you have no idea what that is, it's a constructed language. It's basically a made up language, made up in a sense that you wrote it yourself, but it is still a language. It abides by all the rules of generally a language. It has a structure, it has syntax, grammar, phonetics, or its own like writing system. And what do you think of Conlangs? Because let me finish. You know that I've tried to make a Conlang. I haven't finished it, but it's in the works, and I think like it's interesting as concept to make a Conlang. It doesn't get much use in life aside from films or video games, for example. But it's interesting. What do you think of Conlangs? Would you ever learn a constructed language, or would you ever try to make your own?
Well, firstly, good on you for pointing out that it doesn't have much use IRL because experiments were made to
Esperanto,
Esperanto,
Klingon.
Volapük,
Yep.
various Slavic languages.
What is it called in English?
It's Interslavic.
Interslavic,
but it's a bit
Interslavic.
of a different
Yeah, but
point.
still, it doesn't get much use.
Yes.
People are trying to push it through content online, but it doesn't. It's good for people, for Slavic people who have similar languages, because you can. Me as a person who knows only one Slavic language, unfortunately, I could understand everything that was said. So it is good to understand each other, but it doesn't get again much use.
Yeah.
So-
Even given the fact that Interslavic as a conlang is ingenious in its
in
simplicity,
how it is, how
Yes,
it's made.
But
yeah.
even like there is a very famous video called the Interslavic Talk, where two people are just two Slavs, a Pole and a Czech. They just sit. One is eating a carrot, the other one is drinking beer, and they are speaking in Inter-Slavic. And so one of them is on the Inter-Slavic Committee, the organization that is actually composing, like, accepting or denying new words, etc., and directing the further development of the language. And he says that when I am speaking to a Slav whose language I don't know, I don't just speak Inter-Slavic to them. I take the base of Inter-Slavic and try to make up words as how they would like sound
in their
in that language.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's a good concept of a language, because basically in Inter-Slavic, almost all the words are something that we as Slavic people can understand in all our languages. It's the words that are most used. I think that's what you said. That's what you told me. That are most used and have in 3 or more languages the same meaning.
Yes.
Was it
yes.
that?
So this system, why I called it like simple but amazing. The system goes like this: there is a word that somebody wants to add to the Inter-Slavic dictionary, Междуславянский словник, right?
Yep.
They call it slovnik, I believe. If this word is present and is comprehensible to a speaker of Russian or Polish, it gets 1 point. If it's comprehensible to speakers of other Slavic languages, it gets half a point.
Mhm.
A word can get a maximum of 2 points per each groups of Slavic languages. So Western Slavic, Southern Slavic, and Eastern Slavic. And
Mhm.
if the word gets 3 points, it's accepted.
Yeah. I think also a lot of words were borrowed from Church Slavonic.
Yes, yes.
Because I'm looking right now at the Inner Slavic dictionary, and for example, the word for the I is oka, which is
Or Church
and
Slavonic.
yeah, and it is. But you haven't answered my question about Conlangs, so
Okay.
let's come back to the topic of Conlangs,
Okay.
because I also wrote down one more thing that I wanted to discuss with you. So let's go on
Okay.
with Conlangs.
Okay. So if we're talking about conlangs, there are 2 types of them. The first one are called auxlangs, auxiliary language, and the second one artlang, artistic language. An auxlang is a system, right, that is being used for people to chat with each other, to interact with each other IRL. Like Esperanto.
Can Braille be considered an auxlang?
Oh, I don't know.
Because it's not. It's no. Braille is a system. It's not a language.
Yes.
The sign languages.
Absolutely not. Sign languages are natural languages. I looked it up when I was doing a message on Conlangs. I wanted to include some interesting sign language, and it turned out that nearly all sign languages are natural and developed just like English, Russian, or Portuguese.
Oh my god.
Yes.
But wait, some of the sign languages are made on the basis of other sign languages.
Yeah.
For example, Brazilian Sign Language, I think, was made with a basis in French Sign Language.
Okay.
If I'm not mistaken, I think it was French, because some of them can be considered conlangs, can't they?
Yeah, I think so. But this is most like the delicacy.
Yeah.
But
I think for us to discuss it, we need to have a person with who studied any sign language. I think they would answer for sure.
Yeah. So if we come back to the topic of auxlangs and artlangs, Tolkien, for example, who was an avid artlanger, he had a message that he delivered like in 1931 at the Congress of Esperantists. It was called A Secret Vice, and he highlighted that the way a person can progress linguistically, there are 3 ways. The first one is they can learn a lot of languages. The second one is poetry. And the third one is making up their own languages.
Oh my god, I've read, when I was studying Swedish, I've read a story about a guy with Asperger's, which is not an official diagnosis anymore. It's called the autistic spectrum disorder, I think now.
Okay.
But it was considered a special form of autism, who I think compiled like three, four, or five his own conlangs. And he is a linguist who speaks multiple languages. That was really interesting. I remembered it because you said something about
Yeah.
that.
So like if to sum up, I likely wouldn't try to learn an Oxlang because I don't see the point in it.
Can you give me an example of Oxlang?
Esperanto.
Is it an Oxlang?
Oxlang as auxiliary.
Oh, yeah.
Artlang.
Yeah, I understand the words.
Yeah.
I
If an
mean,
example like
how is Esperanto an Oxlang? Is it cause it was made for everyone to communicate in one language?
made to communicate IRL.
Yes.
So Artlang, it's tied to a particular work of art.
Oh, so Volapük, Esperanto, Afrihili, Inner Slavic are Oxlangs.
Yes.
But Inner Slavic or Afrihili are zonal Oxlangs.
Yeah,
Wow.
there are a lot of peculiarities in there because
Yeah.
well, conlangs are a relatively new topic, albeit very interesting.
Yeah.
And also, my respect goes out to the conlangers. These guys may
Yeah.
be the most interesting linguists out there.
Yeah,
Flat
because
out.
they have to come up with new systems for their languages. For example, do you know that linguist, the guy that invented the bird talk? He does a lot of videos.
Etymology nerd.
Yes. Oh my god, he made a conlang of whistling. That, I mean,
Elite conlanger.
The-
One of the best conlangers out there. He made a lobster language after that.
Yes.
He made a pigeon of
Yes.
those two. And now he's working on a dragon language, but it's not like a usual dragon language. He's trying to work out the whole history of it, like Proto-Dragonic and all
oh
of
my
that.
god, I love that guy.
Trying to copy the evolution of Roman languages.
Oh,
From
that's
Latin
so
to
good.
contemporary
That's
languages.
so good.
Yes.
My respect goes out to this guy. I think I'm gonna have a link to one of his videos in the description. Go check him out if you're interested in linguistics or conlangs. This is your guy. Also, he made phone. I think he wrote down phonetically the way villagers in Minecraft speak.
He made a phonetical analysis of
Analysis.
Hoktua.
Oh my god!
Hoktua.
You're gonna spit on that thing.
And spit on that thing.
Okay.
No, you know what? Actually, we found that the perfect variant of American English. It's the Hoktua Southern twang.
We're hearing laughter from the other room because they heard the
The
Hoktua joke.
Hoktua.
If you have no idea what Hoktua is, please go Google it.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna leave a link for that.
Hoktua Southern twang. Jesus Christ. Okay.
They're trying to calm down the guy who laughs the most. The last thing I wanted to talk to you about, I have actually remembered it as you were talking about the Conlangs and the Inner Slavic committee that accepts organized words. Have you ever thought about the purity of language?
Oh.
It's gonna sound awful when we begin, but I'm gonna explain myself. I've studied Icelandic for 6 months, and in those 6 months, I found out that they don't have a lot of loan words. Because let's analyze it. Iceland is a little island, a volcanic island, off the coast of Norway. It's a closed community, basically, of some 200,000 people, or no, I think I'm gonna
like 3 300,000, 350 maybe.
Yeah, I think that Iceland population.
395, 504.
Yep, 395, 425, as the 1st of December of this year. Some people were born. So they are really rooting for the purity of language. And to be honest, they have a lot from Old Norse. When I started learning Icelandic with a basis in Swedish. I've watched the video. I think I will also have that in the description down below, which is a Dane, an Icelandic person, a Swede, and a guy from Norway, trying to understand the Old Norse sentences. The person who got the most of it
Was an Icelander.
yes, because some of the sentences haven't even changed. The only thing that changed was the word order. The words were the same, with little to no difference in pronunciation. They have 4 cases. The verbs are changing by the oh my god, help me here.
Person?
Yes, they change by the person. They have their language is gendered, and as Russian, it has 3 genders: female, male, and the neuter. As in, oh my god, no, I'm not gonna joke about it. And yeah, it's a really interesting language to learn because it is hard in phonetics, although people are for some reason struggling with Eyjafjallajökull. It's not that hard. It's the volcano Eyjafjallajökull.
Yeah, flat. What?
Eyjafjallajökull. Eyjafjallajökull.
Eyjafjallajökull.
Almost. It's not that hard.
Nice.
And so that's why I wanted to talk to you about the purity of language, because they have an institute that is responsible for accepting or denying new words. What do you think about the purity of language, and seeing as new laws are being interpreted here, being put in place in Russia about the purity of Russian language and abolition of English words? What do you think about the purity and all the hubbub around it?
I think it's a topic we disagree on.
Yeah.
Russian, the way it evolved, it experienced waves of loaning words from other languages.
Yes.
Now it's English, and even though some laws were put in place by both by legislators and by the Institute of Russian Language to try to stop this tendency, nothing seems to have changed. We're still loaning a lot of words from.
Yes, and using them.
Yes. Some of them are entering our
I'm
daily
sorry.
speech, and I think it's not a tendency that can be combated in some language.
Yeah.
Icelandic has a very rich history of cherishing their language
Yeah.
and preserving it.
Yep.
In the 19th century, which is the most basic argument, but whatever, some people didn't even speak Russian
Yeah.
in Russia.
Oh my god. The country is so big that a lot of regions didn't even know that they were Russia.
Furthermore, a story as old as time, the Russian army during the Napoleonic Wars were speaking 2 languages. The noblemen that were officers spoke French.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes.
We've
And the
had
peasant soldiers spoke Russian.
yes, we've had a lot of history, like a lot of words in Russian are borrowed from French, and we cannot deny it. I mean, parachute, the word for the hood is borrowed. A lot of words. And I think the language that we didn't take a lot of from was German.
Yeah.
We didn't learn a lot of words. So it was French, it was Latin, it was, I think, ancient Greek.
Yes, yes.
Even-
Ultra Slavonic as well.
Yes.
They count as loan words.
Yeah. But not German. And now we're taking a lot from
Yeah.
English.
Interestingly enough, Ukrainian did borrow words from German and Russian didn't.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I've
they
heard
have a
about
lot of
this.
them Germanisms. But
Yeah.
I think in order for people to actually try to use words from their own languages and not loan words, they need to have a sense of linguistic pride.
Yes.
Let's be honest. Even you, as a purist,
I'm not a purist.
If you
I'm not a purist. I think there are some things that can be said in Russian language, but I think there are some things, like for example, pulled pork or pulled beef, that are explained through a whole sentence,
yeah.
and we cannot just translate them into Russian. There should be a sensible amount of loaning. I'm not against it. A lot of languages do loan from other languages. I mean, English loans from French, English loans from German, English loans from a lot of languages, much more than Russian. And we just need to be sensible with it,
Yes.
to not replace the words that we can use.
Yes.
I mean, there are words like content that, for me, are honestly easier to say in English.
Obviously, but if we come to if we compare Russia and Iceland, if this Icelandic committee, right, it puts out a bulletin, a recommendation, everybody adheres to it.
Yeah.
If the Russian Duma passes a law that you can do this or that only in Russian, they're trying to pass a law.
That all the signs outside should be in Russian.
They're trying to
the shop names, everything should be written in Russian. Yeah. No one is gonna abide by that.
Yes, honestly, if the Icelanders they adhere to that, we just cringe.
Yeah,
we don't have that sense of national linguistic pride. So I guess.
I mean, do you don't like your language?
I believe there is only one correct answer to that, and that would be yes. But I guess we just need to agree that some languages in some countries are different.
Yeah, because, well, I
can't do anything about it.
Iceland is much smaller than Russia. So, I mean, yeah. And I think we're gonna end on that note. Thank you for being here with us. I was really glad to have you here today.
Likewise.
I mean, of course, it should have been the last episode with you, but
it is what it is.
It is what it is. Thank you guys for watching. Subscribe, leave a like, tell a friend, share, and don't forget to hit that notification bell. Again, thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to our Telegram channel, where we keep you updated on everything. And goodbye.
See ya.